All the Way Down came out of our jam session here. That was like flat out the first thing that we did. That was we were here, and we just in one of the first sessions that we even had, we just kind of made up a groove and played it.
It literally came out of just like.
I remember you came to me after we did that, and you were like, "Oh, let's play that jam we did last time." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And you played it, and I was like, "Did we do this?"
That was probably it was one of the first three songs.
Like maybe number 2 or number 3.
It was one of the first
Think
songs.
Twice was the first one. Yeah, we were like, okay, this is one that we're gonna keep for real. And then All the Way Down, that is just one of the earliest ones.
Yeah.
Wow.
It might even be number 2, honestly.
I think it is number 2.
I feel like a lot of my early songwriting lyrically was like anecdotal or like kind of in this kind of philosophical vein of just like, intentionally vague kind of concepts that are, applicable, right? Yeah, open to interpretation for everything. And this one was like kind of like written from just like experience and like
this thing happened. Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was just like kind of in like a weird time in my life, which is like because I wrote that song when I was in like my early 20s, So it was like this time of just like transition and changes where like a lot of people were coming into and leaving my life, and some of it was due to natural things like moving or leaving school and getting a job and not having time to hang out anymore, and then other people that I knew kind of were like kind of following in this mold that I felt like they didn't really want to be in, and just kind of did it because they felt like they had to. And like I feel like it kind of is thematically connected to When for sure, like in the way that it's just like you have this like path laid out in front of you, and like you don't have to take it all the time.
It's just like a heavy social junction. That's what it sounds like. There's so much going on at that period.
It's one of those things that people experience. Like you get a little bit older, you got to go through those phases of life where you're getting out of like being a younger person, start to get to be your own person as a young adult, and that's a big time of change. And so everybody knows that. And you go through that time period in your life, and you see what the people that you knew become. And that's always an interesting watch. It always ends up being not what you think. There's always some real surprises along the way there, and it's just what life is, right? It's just seeing what things end up as. But that's a good example of that, and kind of the base story of where that came from.
Yeah. One thing that I think is funny about All the Way Down is the fact that literally all the way down, but the song is nothing but a ramp.
Yeah, that is really funny.
And
you got to do that if you're going to fall from grace, man. You got to bring it up, you got to make it pretty high so you have a cliff to fall off of.
True. But in contrast, like when it comes to the order of the songs, or the order in which these songs were conceived, All the Way Down being such a contrast from Think Twice. Like Think Twice is like, not pumping the same way as Pulse, but it's like, this is a really good introduction to each individual member of the band as to like what we're all about. And then All the Way Down, that being pretty much a massive slowdown as well as dynamically. It's like, wow, okay, we got the first song we wrote, and then the second song we wrote, almost polar opposites. Like the only thing that can make it even more opposite is if it were a ballad.
Right. Like that song always resonates with me, just like, and like I think it's definitely a song that can that has like an emotive side that can connect to that, because of like, it starts out so like, you want to talk like dynamic crescendo, like we were talking about, with other songs on this record. That was like, it literally comes in with like the lightest like harmonics and like, like barely any drum groove. The bass doesn't even come in until like, after the first verse, really. Yeah. And that one just like, I feel like just because it's, it can reflect how you're feeling. It's like, you kind of start to feel certain things, and then like it just, it ramps up, and then next thing you know, there's like an epic saxophone solo in the end of it to really just release all that emotion.
I feel like space was probably the biggest thing. Leaving space.
For sure.
Immediately I heard the song, I was like, I'm not playing for the first eight runs through the, however many bars that would be. If anything, I would have voted to come in later than I did. I always enjoy songs when they come in sort of one element at a time.
Yeah.
As like obvious as the choice that may be sometimes, but it still feels good.
It's Legos in a song. Like you're building your song one by one, as opposed to getting a full face of everybody in the first 10 seconds, as opposed to we're gonna ease you into this, and then by the end of 3.5-4 minutes, Like you almost don't realize the journey you've taken just as a listener.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for like articulation. You know, the first moment when I like hold out a note for the first time.
Yep.
Like probably a minute and a half at least in the song.
It
Feels good when that low end finally stays there.
It's that tension, man. Because at this point, people have heard so much music that tension, I feel like now more than ever, is just having such a huge effect. I guess I got to talk about a little bit of the EDM. Like you had some experience in like DJing and stuff, and everybody loves the drop and the build,
the release,
and then the drop. But just something about as music goes on, or as a music in creation and new releases keep coming, that's one of those elements that's never gonna cease. It's like build it, then just give them a good drop.
I look at like the run at the middle point of each verse, like the it's like at first it's just the two guitars, and that's the first time you hear. Well, I guess I do like the harmonics on the intro, but like for the most part, it's just Aaron's guitar for most of that first part, and then it's like that comes in, and then it like kind of like teases at that first chorus. You're gonna hear both guitars come in a little heavier, but still a little bit reined in. And then the second verse we have the bass, and by the third verse we have the saxophone coming in, so that we have like a 4-part harmony coming in on this thing. It's become built up so much, and like also just in the editing process too, like we had Akechi blow those like the horn, like the chordal horn stuff underneath the pre-chorus, and then it's like each time it gets a little bit higher in the mix because it's all just leading to his actual solo at the very end of the song, which just like is this, as you said, like this massive payoff, with the drop, which is something that I thought was very
Speaking of editing, another shout out, Michael Cumming. And that guy, he's so easy to work with, and just like such a vibe. It's a cool
Great
dude,
feel.
man. Yeah.
Great feel. Good ear. Really like
Excellent ear.
understands good balance. Really like laid stuff out really well for us. Made some obvious, really good choices.